Good morning.
Good morning, Roxanne.
We are back on the record. This is the Reciprocity Committee meeting, and we are starting at 9:30. I want to welcome everyone. Give everyone a chance to get to the correct document on your iPads, and then we will get started. Okay, we have an application for reciprocity of a master barber instructor license from Wisconsin. This is for Ms. Kristen Allison. Ms. Allison? Those that might be coming in, I may ask if they're here. The certification shows an initial licensure in 2001 as a cosmetology instructor. Wisconsin includes barbering in the hours and in the services allowed for the cosmetologist. Ms. Allison provided certifications of completion for the instructor's program, as well as a letter from the school she taught since 2001, where it's very clear that she was licensed for both disciplines. She's taught both cosmetology and barbering. She obtained her Tennessee cosmetology instructor license in August of 2019. At that time, she didn't realize that she would not be able to teach both disciplines in the state of Tennessee, and that they're completely separate. So at this time, she is requesting to have the barber instructor license. My recommendation is that that be granted.
Roxanna, that's based on the fact that in the previous state, it was automatically included in there.
And in her curriculum, her page 9 of our document shows a barbering or cosmetology instructor. So the teaching methodology would be both, but the license as well kind of covers both disciplines. And then the school has provided a letter saying that she's been teaching both disciplines. So she would have plenty of experience, definitely since 2013 all the way to November of 2019. She's been teaching both.
Make a motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have an application for reciprocity of a hairstylist license from Colorado for Charita Brent. The certification shows initial licensure in September 2005 with 1,140 hours in both exams. Ms. Brent provided a letter showing at least 5 years of work experience, but the license is different than the one in Tennessee. My recommendation would be that she take the practical exam.
Make the motion to take the practical.
We have a motion to take the practical. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion? Roxanne, I see a letter of admonition on here. Do we know what that relates to?
Which page?
It's
21?
page 19.
That's the lookup from Colorado. So that would be the certification for her license that shows the 1,140 hours by examination for hairstylist. So where she would be missing the hours, she's got the years of experience. But I think what we've done consistently, Colorado and one or two other states have the hairstyling license. They don't do any of the nails or the facial with it, so the practical exam should cover those pieces. That's okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Application for reciprocity of an esthetician license from Florida for Rubina Gilani. License lookup shows the face specialist. Initial license issued in October of 2008. That license is with 260 hours and no exams. Ms. Gilani has also been licensed in Alabama since February of 2014. She provided check stubs and a letter showing experience for 2008 and 2009, and then between 2014 all the way to 2019. My recommendation is that she take the practical. It appears Alabama did not have her take either exam, so.
Make the motion to take the practical.
We have a motion to take the practical. Do we have a second?
Still reading them. The last 4 years, she has not worked as an esthetician, right?
2014 to 2018. Hold on, let me look at that.
That's 24.
Correct, that's on the last email. We could request both exams. That definitely would set her back, but it's at your discretion. At a minimum, I would say the practical, but that's your decision.
We have a motion. If we don't have a second, then that motion would die. The motion is dead for lack of second. Do we have any other motion?
What do you all think about her taking both exams?
I think since she hasn't been tested, I'd like to see her take both exams.
I think at a minimum both.
Motion.
I'll motion that she should take both exams.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to take both exams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On your iPad, you're on page 38. Next, this is an application for reciprocity of a master barber license from Hawaii for Kapwanani Ho. The license lookup shows initial licensure in December 2010 with 1,500 hours and only the theory exam. Ms. Ho has provided tax records as proof of work in the industry from 2009 through 2018, as well as a letter showing experience for all of 2018 and 2019. The recommendation would be that we accept her for reciprocity. The board had given us permission for if waiving the practical if the 10 years were there. They're short 1 year from the 10 years, so that's why it's coming before you.
Roxanne, on page 39, it lists the courses she completed, or he completed was
Yes, she.
barber technician. Is that just a difference in their phraseology?
It is.
and ours? Okay.
It is. The license itself that we look up on
Barber.
page 41 says Barber 3278, and when we look at their credentials as they report to all the other states so we can share each other's information, they call it Barber. There's no tech, yeah. It had me puzzled for a minute.
Much different license.
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept reciprocity.
We have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Judy? Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Illinois for Thu Thai Nguyen. The certification shows initial licensure date for June 2012 with education from Vietnam and no exams. Ms. Nguyen has been licensed in the U.S. for more than 5 years, but she is not interested in only obtaining the manicure license, not the cosmetology license. She provided a written explanation for your review that she only does nails and that Illinois allowed her to not test, therefore she obtained the cosmetology there. But given that we would still require the exam, she would like the board's authority to just apply for a manicure license and test in that discipline. So my recommendation would be that she take the Tennessee manicure exams.
We don't have any way of knowing any information from Vietnam on her history.
For education. Normally, if another state regulatory board has approved the education, we don't go back to it and reevaluate it because they've got an active license, and that's the majority of our requirement for reciprocity. So that piece, we don't. And then Illinois didn't have her test for whatever reason. They just accepted that licensure. We normally require the 5 years working in the states, and we do that to protect the public and for sanitation reasons. So she would have that piece. Had she had the exams in Illinois, I don't think it'd be questioned, but she hasn't had any.
On page 87, it says status as on probation. What was that for?
Page.
87.
We're on a different
Oh, it's a
applicant.
different
Okay,
app, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
This applicant's all the way to page 65.
I don't think, since she's never been tested, I don't think I'd be comfortable without both of our tests.
I'll make a motion for her to take both the tests.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to require both tests. Is there any discussion?
For manicuring, right?
For
For
manicure
manicuring,
only?
yes, because I wouldn't have been able to make that change for us.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have an application for reciprocity of a cosmetology license from Wisconsin for Diem Thai Phuong Nguyen. The certification shows initial license was issued in September 2014 with 1,550 hours and no exams. Ms. Nguyen is also licensed in North Carolina and has been since October 2014. She provided a written explanation that she only does nails and that she does not have the confidence in passing the cosmetology exam, so she is asking to test as a manicurist. Very similar to our previous applicant from a different state, though. My recommendation, again, would be that she take the manicure Tennessee exams if the board decides to do that. Tax records are there, and I think on almost all of them, if not all of them, you can tell that they are in the manicuring industry.
Her original Wisconsin license was expired, but her North Carolina is still active.
Is active, correct. We just need one, yes.
Make the motion that she tests for the manicurist.
We have a motion to permit the both parts of the
Yes.
manicure test. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. This is that probation license. Ms. Patricia, you saw this is an application for reciprocity of a manicure's license from Iowa for Samuel Joshua Sturgill. The certification shows an initial licensure of August 31st, 2019 with 525 hours and both exams, and the status does show probation. His license status would need to be active for us to be able to consider it and approve it. Unfortunately, the office has not been able to get a response from him as to why the probation, so we did our own research. The only thing we were able to find is a civil case that is under his name with a large civil penalty still due, but nothing within the felony records or misdemeanors. So at this point, we can delay him until February to get something from him, or go with the research we found and approve his license. And as the board remembers, with our states that border us in particular, with Georgia, we did this. If the manicuring license were close enough, then we went ahead and they took the exams. We honored that instead of sending someone back for 75 hours.
And being on probation, I'm a little uncomfortable with that, so I think I would rather wait till the next meeting.
Ma'am?
Have him provide more documents or more information at least.
I make a motion for him to represent next month, or next meeting in February.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to request to represent. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have an application for reciprocity of a manicurist license from California for Than Thai Ngoc Vu. Certification shows initial license in July of 2016 with both exams. Ms. Vu originally applied for reciprocity in 2017. At that time, she was told she needed to complete 200 hours to substantially meet the requirements. She attended in school in Georgia and completed the 200 hours in 2018. Now she is applying for licensure. Since then, that school that she attended in California is one of the ones under investigation by California, so she received a denial letter from our office. Ms. Vu appears to have done everything she was asked for at the time, and is now asking that we reconsider the fact that her original hours aren't accepted, given that she went to another state, continued education. My recommendation to make sure that she is qualified and to protect the public would be to ask for a practical exam. California, I think, started with 22 or 24 schools. I believe we're down to 15 or 16. So the investigation is slowly taking the schools off or closing the schools, depending on the case. But in this case, her school is still listed.
Was she given a written exam?
In California, she took both.
Okay.
So that's not the concern. But with the schools under investigation, we've not been accepting the license because those hours are in question. So. And of course, in 2017, when she applied, this investigation hadn't started. So we actually told her what to do. She went and did it, and now we're stuck. And so she's stuck. You could approve the license flat out or request anything else.
Georgia, you said to finish up her 200 hours is what she did?
Yes, she did.
So
That
a
is one
copy
of the.
that?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Let me know if you need that page. It is on page 95. At one point, the board had concerns with this school. We asked for additional information. What we got from the Georgia State Board on this school was a change of ownership. They sold it and changed hands, and so since then, we went ahead and started accepting this particular school.
Roxanne, on the, I believe it's on page 96, if I'm looking at the right page, there were transcript errors and inconsistent.
And if you recall, that's the reason we had concerns with that school. It just, the errors concerned us. At that time, we presented those to the board. You agreed, and so until the state board could either let us know the status of the school or something take place, I think we delayed those applicants coming from school for about 6 months, and then they did a change of ownership.
Do you have any suggestions?
What do you suggest, Roxana? What's your input?
My recommendation was to have her take the practical exam. In general, when we're concerned with protecting the public and we think everything else is there, that's been the route. This is unique because of the California schools, but I feel bad for her because she was approved, to the best that we can
Right.
tell, went to school out of state. That particular school teaches in more than just English, and so that would be possibly the reason going out of state.
Did she take a test in Georgia?
No, she took the test in California.
Just in California.
Yeah, California met everything we did, but if you recall, their manicure hours are only 400, not 600, at least at the time.
I'll make a motion for her to take the practical portion of the exam.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second to take the practical exam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. That is it for the Reciprocity Committee, so we will go ahead and pause the meeting and start the full meeting at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you good?
I got it.
I was trying to keep up.
There you go.
Nice to meet you. Very, very nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. I think is your school the first one? Yeah, you're the first one on the list. Thank you. You're welcome. And I'll walk you through the site and kind of show you see if they have any questions. They may not. But yeah, you want to sit right here. Thank you. Here would be a great video. I think right over here, Miss Judy. This is our newest board member, Judy McAllister. Judy, you're right here.
Good to meet you.
Judy Witcher, and then Anita's next to you. Anita, you've got your new board member next to you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome.
This.
Good morning.
Wonderful, good to see you.
Ready? Hello. Your sweater. Merry Christmas. So my girls are coming to see
I know. Is Nina coming?
I don't think she's
I
here
don't
no
think
more.
so, but I've not heard from her.
I'm Susan Witcher.
Hi, Susan. Hattie Parsons.
Good to meet you.
Hello, Susan. Roddy Gillihan.
Orange Friends.
I am. We done heard all about you.
I've been to Riverville High School. I've been to
Wow. Good deal.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck's what we're going to tell you.
Today, till noon, 12:30 at the latest.
Good morning. How are
Good.
you? Good to see you.
Yeah, Yes. We've got a cool group. Look at this.
I'm Betty DeMoore. Real nice to meet you.
You too.
And just when you get time, if you'll just sign this and put it date, that's for your travel claims.
Okay.
That will do, okay? And I'll get you all set up. Well, sweet. And then this right here.
Sounds fun.
Form 2, that's about the same thing.
It's supposed to work, like your muscles work so much harder and you, yeah.
We'll sign, no, right here. Let me look at it. So yes, right here for me. This is your per diem that I'll do for you every time you come home. Right there.
Claim it
Right here.
or approve it. Okay.
Oh, no, you're right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm looking upside down. Thank you so much. We
You asked me what I was eating. It was a cheeseburger, and then I ate the whole cheeseburger.
thank you so much.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet
You
If
too.
you need anything, you holler at me.
Okay, I will.
And if you need some water, it's free. So
Oh,
get you a drink
okay.
of water.
I got one in my
Okay.
bag, but I may need more. Yes, please.
There you go, Anita. Thank you so much.
I didn't fill mine.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
They did the legal thing. They're gonna go back over it.
I think this is yours too.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They're just things we can't eat.
Myself, I'm Kelly Barber. You look familiar. I really do need to introduce myself. I'm Susan Witcher. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Kelly.
How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Good. Hi, I'm introducing myself.
How you doing? It's good to see you.
Thank you. I asked the people up front that I said, does this still work? It expired in 2017. So,
Last time, but it didn't.
but happy to help.
Kids doing okay?
I guess I still sit here. I don't even know where I sit. Okay.
Just when you get time, if you will sign it.
Oh, thank you.
And
Okay.
for my gift. Pick it up later on, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Don't leave me. I just need to make sure that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Who just logged in?
Conference line. Good morning.
Good morning. Wonderful. I just want to make sure that the line was connecting. I'm going to hang up. And this is Roxana. Who am I speaking with?
This is Stephanie Graham from Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. If you'll put us on mute, we're going to get started in about a minute. So thank you for joining us.
Hi, Roxanne. Thank you. Gordon is also on the line.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Granger. That's what I was waiting for as well. Thank you.
And Celeste, Roxana.
What did we get on this morning?
Good to see you.
Hey, Celeste.
Thank you.
Hey,
Look at all these goodies.
I'm just going to observe today. Red boiling springs. Red boiling springs. It's about 72 school kids to here. Okay. On the Kentucky border.
Found my home.
Ooh, not in career, so.
There's quite a few people that actions.
actually,
That is all the.
how is that?
Oh, my gracious.
Because I went to the recycling.
Let me make me a note here.
How long do these meetings usually?
Okay, who's got a pen that can loan me? Here we go.
Hold on, Mona.
Here we go again.
It just takes
3 to 4 shades of lipstick.
I do. I mean, it's all. This is not pens.
I have to do this. If I do that,
Thank you. Coming on.
Hi, kids.
They're grown. Hey, I've been introducing myself. My name's Kelly Barber.
Mona, you got a choice.
Nice to meet you.
We're glad you're here.
You can have a First Horizon or a Pinehurst pencil.
Christmas.
I bet you it's all
Take it back. You can't have a
Professional.
Pinehurst pencil. That's mine.
That's what my husband said. I was like,
Did you give her a pen? Oh, I collect pens.
4 shades of lipstick. No pen ever.
Really? You and all my employees, Mona. Pleasure to meet you. All right, hold on. We'll get started. Betty, go ahead. Thank you.
This meeting of the State Board of Cosmetology and Barber Examiners is now called to order. We will begin our morning agenda by having a roll call. Make sure we have quorum.
Thank you very much for starting us, Chairman Gillihan. This is the Cosmetology and Barber Board meeting. Today is December 9th, and we're starting at 10:05. And I will start with Ms. Kelly Barger.
present.
Welcome. Ms. Anita Charlton. Present. Ms. Nina Coppinger is not with us. Mr. Frank Gambusa. Frank is here. I'll mark him down, and I'm sure he'll join us here in a minute. Mr. Ron Gillihan.
Here.
Ms. Wybeck Granger.
Here.
Thank you for participating telephonically, Ms. Granger. I appreciate that. Ms. Judy McAllister.
Present.
Ms. Patricia Parsons.
Present.
Ms. Janie Ross.
Present.
Ms. Becky Russell.
Here.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield.
Here.
Ms. Amy Tanksley.
Present.
Thank you, and I would like to take this moment to introduce our newest board member. Mrs. Susan Witcher is here to my left, and she is joining us. She is our public board member. And Ms. Witcher, if you'd like to say a few things to the board, where you're from or anything, we thank you for your service and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Yes.
Welcome.
You have quorum. Chairman Gillihan, I'll turn it back over to you.
Very well. The next order of business, we always like to welcome our visitors and guests, and it's a shame we just don't have anybody here today. Kids,
So glad to
folks,
see
thank y'all
them.
for coming out this morning. We've got a full house, and it is really, really good to see all of you. I know that we have several schools represented here. We'll ask for your instructor or your owner, whoever's with the school, to please stand up and identify yourself and let us know where you're from. We'll start back in the back. Okay. All right, next. Franklin Beauty Academy. Wonderful, wonderful. Next. Portland. Wonderful. All right. The Nail Academy. Welcome, welcome. Yes, sir.
I'm Michael Smith. I'm on the Board of Trustees with Franklin Academy.
Welcome, Michael.
Bianca Dunham with the Master Academy of Barbering Knoxville.
Good to see you again. Cat Knoxville, you guys drove a long way.
These are mine.
Those are yours, all right.
Thank you for making the drive. I believe we have somebody from Memphis back here in the back as well. Myron?
No.
We're just recognizing schools. Thank you for coming down this morning. Okay, also, before we move on, I'd like to take just a second. I think we have a large group of folks here representing advanced aesthetics in general. Thank you for coming out today. We appreciate your interest in what the board and your industry is into these days, so thank you for being here. The next item on our agenda would be to approve the October 2019 minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
I'll make a motion to approve. Did you find one?
There were 2 board members that were listed as both here and not here.
Down the phone?
No, they were.
Okay. Are there any other corrections? Okay. Here none, do we have a motion
I'll make a motion
to approve the correction?
with, approving with Roxana's correction.
Done. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Janey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The few housekeeping items that we have to do this time of year. It is time for us to adopt Robert's Rule of Order for governing our meetings. Do we have any questions or discussions on that, or we'll need a motion?
Make a motion to adopt Robert's Rule of Order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Robert's rules. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next item on our agenda would be the election of the chair and vice chair for the 2020 year. And Ms. Roxana, I'll give that to you.
Thank you. And the reason I've put this on our agendas, I think historically we've had a January meeting where we took care of it, but we won't until February. So this meeting will carry on with our chair and vice chair, and if we do have any changes, February will be when they would start. So I welcome a motion for, why don't we start with your chair? And that way, if there's more than one, we can go around and vote.
Make a motion for Ron to keep his chair. He's done a great job.
I'll second it.
Second. Done deal.
Okay, so I have a motion for Chairman Ron Gillihan to be chair again, and the motion's for Ms. Patricia, and seconded by Mona, I believe. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I think it can be done that way. Next, we need vice chair. Your motion was for both, Ms. Patricia, or?
Yes.
What was, for chair, okay, so for vice chair, we need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Maybe not.
I'm fired,
President,
literally. For Ms. Russell.
Ooh, I second that. We have a motion by Ms. Kelly Barger and a second by Ms. Amy for the vice chair to be Ms. Becky Russell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and thank you for your service to both of you.
As long as she can still sit
If
by
you
me.
accept, right?
You did mark as abstain.
Yes, you both abstain. No problem. Thank you very much. That takes care of that line of business.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, I guess.
Thank you for the work.
That was a hesitant, thank you there.
Seriously, thank you all. It's an honor. Moving down the agenda, I know we have quite a bit on our plate today, so I don't mean to move too rapidly through this, but we'll just plow right through. Appearing before the board, I believe we have the Nail Academy, Ms. Roxana, and we'll come back to you on that.
Thank you very much. First on your agenda is the Nail Academy. This is a new specialty manicure school. You have on your iPad starting page 3. If you give me a second, Ms. Rose Lee Ho is here appearing for that school. This school is located in Cookeville. It is a specialty manicure school with a total 1,200 square feet. The floor plan is provided in front of you. I've received the 5 student contracts, contingency plan, application and fees all timely. I will let the board review, and if you have any questions, Ms. Ho is more than happy to respond.
Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
Your school is also participating in the apprenticeship.
Yes, sir.
According to this diagram, it appears that you can only access each room via the common area. Can you go through?
There's a hallway. Yes, sir. You can access the rooms through the hallway as well.
But can you internally? Can you go from the front of the space to the very back of the space through all these rooms?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
I think everything looks like it's thoroughly in order, and I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations and good luck.
You appreciate it. Yes, ma'am, I am.
You are?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll reach you in case you need me. That's
Thank you.
And Ms. Ho is ready to be inspected because this is a new school. I take it we need a field inspector and board member. Any volunteers for Cookeville?
Right.
I will reach out our 2 board members later.
I need to get to Cookeville. It'll just depend on how quickly I can get there.
Okay, Amy, I'll jot you down as a maybe, and we'll follow up. Thank you very much. Okay, next on your iPads, you have a change in location. This is the Master Academy of Barbering. Ms. Zuri Carroll and Ms. Bianca Dion, either one of you.
She's not here.
This school is located in Knoxville. The floor plan application fees were received timely for this meeting. What is the total square footage?
It's 4,800.
Thank you. I didn't see it anywhere like writing it down. I will let the board review the documents and ask any questions you have to Ms. Bianca Dion.
Thanks for coming in this morning. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see
Occasionally,
you.
we encountered different folks in various meetings. We only do barbering.
We only do barbering.
Offer the instructor course as well?
Sorry?
Do you offer the instructor course?
We do, but we're very limited on how many students we accept for our instructor course.
Thank you.
Like, we only do like 2 a year right now.
Hard to find a good instructor.
I'm sorry?
It's hard to find a good instructor.
Yeah, it is. Especially in barbering.
Yeah.
Anytime we have a change of location, I always like to inquire, how far are you moving? Because my idea is it going to be an inconvenience on your students?
It is 2.4 miles away from the existing location.
Okay.
Driving, like, actual distance is 2 miles, though.
It's pretty close, around the same
Yeah.
portion of town.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a great location.
Quite convenient, actually.
Thank you.
And the school right now, correct me if I'm wrong, is using the campus for part of their classes because it is within the 2
Right,
miles
right.
until we were able to do an inspection and they fully convert it and then close your other one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually want to ask a couple questions to the board whenever y'all had a second.
I'll come back to that in just a second.
That's fine.
Roxana, with change of location, we don't need any new contracts or anything like that.
That's correct. It's all about the floor plan. The floor plan looked incredible.
Okay.
Because it's a new location, we would probably need a field inspector and board member, and we would have to resort on Ms. Kelly Barger to be the board member in that area.
Make a motion to approve the move.
Before we do shift question.
Yes.
I'll second it.
I just had a question because the way that the meetings are set up, I couldn't submit my floor plans due to construction issues. So whenever I submitted it in October, this is kind of very much so dampened my clientele having to shut down from Thanksgiving all the way through whenever I'm still waiting on an inspector. So I just want y'all to know as a board that killed my students' morale for 1, and 2, it did definitely hurt my clientele following us because now I'm really closed down for almost 3, well, whenever you guys make it out, it could possibly be 3 weeks or longer. So I don't know if there's anything we can, I understand if I was a new school, y'all having to view my contracts and everything, but since I've been in business for almost 5 years and I was switching locations, and if I have everything in line and pending the inspector, like, if you guys could have just sent an inspector out to say my location looks good and then give me a temporary license or something, because it did kind of hurt me to transfer. And I just didn't know if there was something that could, I know there's not a lot of schools in the state, but something that could definitely assist, because it did hurt. And anybody knows is dealing with this business, if you shut down between Thanksgiving, the beginning of Christmas and everything, it's kind of hard to pull those people back in.
So you're just looking for an early inspection, right?
I'm looking for an early inspection, but I mean, now I've already had to close because I did ask Roxana whenever I submitted the stuff in the end of October if there was anything that could be done because of my construction issue. I couldn't submit my floor plan to y'all because if I would have submitted my floor plan and it would have been wrong and y'all would have came out, then I would have been looked like I was trying to do something, but I wasn't. I had to wait till I could approve everything construction-wise to submit legitly what was going to be there.
Now,
If that makes
I have a
sense.
question. Based on our conversations, you were able to use the facility because it was within 2 miles. I said that that was perfectly okay.
I can't use the facility for clients. I can only do theory. That was your exact words in the email.
Nothing for schools based on the statute can be approved by the office. It has to come to the board. So unless we receive it timely, there is no, right now, statutory permission to send inspectors.
And also, if she had a change come up after she submitted, she could have emailed you and said, hey, there's been a change
Correct.
in this room, and
Right.
probably
We
been
didn't get it
fine.
in time for the October meeting.
Yes.
I mean, it is the entire floor. We had to actually completely move our whole.
That was a design change that you decided to make, though? That was your
I
decision
had to make it
those?
due to plumbing issues.
Okay,
So that's
Yeah,
why
that
I
would've
had,
been-
that's why we waited until we could get those things in line. So I just wanted to, I just kind of wanted to mention that to y'all with the every other month. From Thanksgiving until now, my students have just been sitting in a classroom, like functioning, which everybody knows if you've dealt with students in theory, sitting in a classroom all day, for some of them stay 10 hours, it is very, very difficult for them.
And did you lose your original location? They couldn't do their practical hours in the original location and the theory?
Yeah,
in the other?
our lease was up, so I
Okay.
couldn't pay for rent at
Okay.
2 locations.
Got it. Yep.
So that was where we had our issue.
You know, in a new school, in a brand-new school, the school is not open to the public for 90 days anyway. And not that it's the same scenario, not at all, but
Yeah.
that is just one of the idiosyncrasies that we have to go through with timing and planning and all those things. We understand construction interruptions and changes. Those things do happen. But again, I appreciate the things you've told us, and it's something that we can think about. Unfortunately, it was not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
But something to think about for the future, but also as for those watching who might want to have a school or something in the future. It's actually always incumbent upon the business owner to make sure that they've had sufficient lead time, plan time, and all that to get everything required before you make changes. Unfortunately, in this case, your school had a lease that you had to work with.
Yeah, I couldn't have submitted it by the beginning of October. I wouldn't have known the construction, because I was still dealing with trying to figure out the plumbing situation that we had going on.
It's unfortunate, and we apologize,
Yeah.
you know, that you had some difficulties, but unfortunately, that is the procedure right now.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem.
Okay.
Next, you
So
have,
we have
yes,
a motion and a second.
we do. I'm sorry, yes.
So all those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
Next, you have a new school. This is Brillare Beauty Institute. Mr. Mike Smith, if you'll give me just a second. They may ask questions.
Okay.
Appearing before you is Mr. Mike Smith, who introduced himself a little bit ago. This is a new cosmetology school located in Chattanooga. The school is over 8,700 square feet. Business license, curriculum, blank contract, floor plan, contingency plan, application, and fee were all received timely. This school has the application under the old school's name. It was just going to make it simpler to present it all under what they're changing their name to be. Franklin Academy is their original school. That will be having a school name change probably at the February meeting. But for the new one to start, it figured it just made sense to start them from the beginning under Brillare Beauty Institute. I'll let you review all the documents and ask Mr. Smith any questions that you have.
Welcome to the board. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming
sir.
in.
Glad to be here.
Approximately 8,700 square feet.
Yes, sir.
It's good.
It's just under 8,000 usable.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the nonprofit institution part of it all?
Sure. What's your question? What would you like to know?
I would just like for you to expand on your school that is a nonprofit corporation.
It's been nonprofit. It was run by a group from Florida, City Colleges, and it's managed by a board. It's 501c3. It's my first opportunity and experience working with a nonprofit also. And the board changed in 2014, and I was invited to be on the board in 2015. My experience is I was a school owner in Arizona for cosmetology for-profit institutions, and so it's really no different as far as how the operations of the school are, as far as students and clients are concerned. I think it's more advantageous in some manner when it comes to accounting and taxes and also providing the mission for the nonprofit, which is to offer scholarships and opportunities for students that maybe wouldn't have those opportunities. Hopefully that answered your question, some of your question anyway.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have tuition along with scholarship.
There is some scholarships available, yes, so we manifest, yes.
Okay. All right. Have we ever had this before us? Before a school that's a nonprofit?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And I think their plan is to be both, correct? You'll be charging some students tuition.
No, we've always charged
Yeah.
tuition.
Don't let the nonprofit.
Okay.
The nonprofit is like another public institute. It can be private or public.
Gotcha.
Is to be under a nonprofit situation.
Okay.
I have a lot of friends that have cosmetology schools that are nonprofit, but it's just not intentionally nonprofit.
Yes, I'm like thinking, why would you just stay home? I mean,
At least you'll put it out there as your intention, so.
You repeat, was this a new building or is this an existing school?
It's an empty space that used to be a tenant was a prior school there, but it's been empty for approximately 3 years, I think. The space that we're going into now.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roxana, this is one that might need to look this one up. In your transfer between programs policy, you can transfer a maximum of 150 hours between programs.
General.
Now, would that work with the existing rules that we have? I know sometimes if you have somebody starting one program, that they can transfer those to a different one.
The statute still says that a school may transfer a student's general hours. So, if it's going to manicuring or natural hair, which have lesser general hours, you would only transfer the needed in the new profession, right? But it's just about the general hours transferring. Yes, that's still there.
Your maximum is fine.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I do have one question, just because I'm curious. So the alumni transfer credit, could you explain to us how that works a little bit, and to just the people who aren't looking at the iPad?
Sure. If a student graduates from one of our programs and comes back and takes another program, we again have that opportunity to offer that student a little incentive to do that with that alumni grant that I think that you're referring to.
Yes, the grant I understood, but to give them a transfer credit of hours, do you just like?
So it's only the same scenario which was referred to before, which is the 150 is the maximum amount of hours that we allow to transfer back in.
Gotcha. Just from a program they've already completed?
Yes,
like
ma'am.
Potentially gotten a license for?
Yes, ma'am. We only
Okay.
have two programs, which is aesthetics and cosmetology. So
Gotcha.
if one graduates from one and comes back to the other, we allow 150 hours either way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hopefully that helps.
That's usually your general
Thank you.
sanitation
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
I just thought maybe
It's only the general that can be
be a
transferred.
good.
Yes.
I believe I saw the instructor listed on the front of the application as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have the three.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second.
I don't think we have a second.
Sorry,
Oh,
I
we did not, I'm
interrupted.
sorry.
I'll second it.
Okay. I thought I heard it over here. Do we have any other questions or discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Smith, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much, and you
Good
did a
luck.
nice job, Roxanne. It is Brulare. I appreciate it. I might have a little bit of challenges with that pronunciation. It means to shine in Italian.
Thank you
sir.
for being here. Thank you.
Quick question, Mr. Smith. Are you all ready? If not, you'll let me know when you are.
I will let
Fantastic. Thank you and congratulations. Okay. Next on your iPads, you are on page 77. This is a new barber school. If you give me a minute, I will let Mr. Myron Tate up. The application is filled out as the school name Haircuts LLC. That's not correct. This is Bluff City Barber College. If you give me a minute. Mr. Tate. We'll see if they've got any. This school is located in Memphis. The curriculum, blank contract, floor plan, contingency plan, application, and fees have been received. Mr. Tate will be handing me the 15 student contracts today in paper, so I've not had a chance to fully review them. Otherwise, you have, I believe, everything you need to look at in front of you. Mr. Tate, how big is the school?
2,800 square.
Thank you. If you have any questions, he'll be happy to answer for you.
All right. Welcome. It's good to see you again. We spoke earlier. I don't see the dates and hours of operation on your application.
Going to be day shift and night shift, 9 to 5 and 5 to 9.
We need to get you to make sure that.
Page 82.
Yeah.
He has both the part-time and the full-time. Monday through Thursday would be the part-time, and the full-time is Tuesday through Saturday at the top. Are those hours correct? Thank you.
This is just for the barbering program? Shouldn't say just.
Right.
It's for the barbering program. Thank you.
I would make a motion to approve. It's pretty cut and dry.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. I'm going to take just another minute or two. You will be offering the apprentice program?
No.
Okay. That is listed on page 83. Regards to placement for graduates upon completion of their apprentice program of study.
Correct. At the bottom of that page, under placement services, it says Bluff City Barber College has partnered with local salons to ensure career placement for our graduates upon completion of their apprentice program of study.
But you're not offering the apprentice program?
I'm not sure. It depends on the circumstances of each situation. So you're going to vary.
You have to declare one or the other or both, right?
He doesn't need, you do not need a special application to offer apprenticeship. You need to let us know on your monthly hours report. It's important on the exam that you pick correctly to help yourself with the statistics. So he could choose to offer it at any given point. What he can't do is start as an apprentice school without the floor plan to offer services and do it the other way around. And in the event that you do, I welcome any questions that you have for apprenticeship so we can make sure that you're all set.
Needs to change that right now if he's not.
I don't know
Or just
that he
add.
has to,
Okay.
simply because they could add it at any point and offer it.
On your contingency plan, that looks really just like a hopeful recommendation, more than actual plan.
I spoke to the owner, and to my knowledge from Ms. Roxanne, that's all I.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. If there are any other questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. I'm going to say no. Motion carries. Congratulations and good luck with your school.
So we will require a field inspector and board member inspection, is that correct? And before I schedule that, I need to review the 15 contracts, if that's okay with the board. Currently, who is the instructor that you have for the school? Okay, so you'll be doing your upgrade online or in person? Okay, let me take those contracts from you. Thank you. All of it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. On our schools to be presented, the last one on your iPad starts on page 89. This is New Pyramid Beauty School Incorporated. It's a new barber and new specialty manicure school. Pardon me. Mr. Cleophas Bryant? Mr. Bryant.
Hello, Mr. Bryant.
Doing.
This application has been before you, I believe, at a couple of meetings. The reason for the review, if you recall, the last meeting was we were handed the contracts at that time to finalize and review, similar to what I've got today. And I'll let Hugh explain if you've got any questions. But basically, the 15 barber contracts and 5 manicure contracts had to be reviewed. In looking specifically at the manicure contracts, you have on page 92, one example, and this is Thui That Than No. This individual is already licensed as a manicurist in our program. Her contract starts on page 96. She signed that she is doing a tentative contract as a manicurist, and I've got all 5 contracts here for you. The manicure contracts are not completed correctly. They have not applicable for email, no telephone, no full social, and so I'll let you review. In the case of this particular applicant, she's already a licensee, so going back to school to complete the same hours posed a concern. And I'll turn it over to you if any questions you have.
Mr. Bryant, do you have any other contracts that you've submitted that might be already licensed personnel?
No, sir. People that came in to get their license or get a contract, they, I mean, some people didn't know if they were going. Some people, I mean, the contracts that I submitted for 2 years almost. I mean, I've been coming back and forth, getting contracts, stay bored. She probably went somewhere else. I have new contracts with new people. She might have went somewhere else and maybe got a license, because it's been 2-3 years since I've been trying to open my school.
This particular contract and all of these have been signed in May 2019. This particular individual, I'm going to look at her license if you give me a minute. I know she was licensed way before May 2019. That initial license was in 2015, and I may be correct if I'm remembering, went to school at your school, at a former school ownership. So she's had a license since 2015, and for some reason in May 2019, filled out a new contract.
Good morning, Ms. Camuccio and the board. My name is Juan Dabiotto. Could you give me the name?
Absolutely. The first contract that we have is last 4 of the social. Since you didn't provide the full social, is 0705. That's the best way I could know we were talking about the same person. Full name is Thui, 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 Thai, Thi, Than, Thanh. Last name is No, Ngo. That contract that you provided has the same last 4 of the social, same name, Thui No, Ngo. Signed in May of 2019.
He can't speak to that. He would really need to see that contract at this point. He has presented new contracts that we've gone over to make sure that the acknowledgement is there, the initials are there, the date, all the dates are filled out. But as it relates to that particular contract, I just don't have any information at this point to address that. I do know that he has been presenting contracts from several years ago, and so we need to review that and see where that actually comes from. I just don't have a
Well, now, as I understand, this is the applications and thing that we're working on is a current application, not something from many years
Right.
ago.
These are the contracts handed to us at the last meeting that we sat down and reviewed. Last meeting, October.
This one here was already in the school.
Ms. Bryant, is this your work? I mean, these things that you've submitted to the board, that's actual documents that you've
Correct.
prepared and submitted based on actual people who intend to enroll in your school.
Correct.
Okay, so you should know what's in them, right?
Right.
Okay.
Are we talking about 15 contracts?
Barber
Or 5?
contracts are 15. Manicuring is a specialty school. It requires 5.
Okay. So that's, I mean, not that many to keep track of, really. And as far as I'm concerned, one case of potential, like, that's just not
That's 20%.
cutting it. That's enough for me to be a no. So I'll make the motion to deny.
I'll second that.
Who seconded? I didn't. Thank you, Ms. Russell.
Rebecca.
I wasn't paying attention.
We have a motion and a second to deny this application on the floor based on incorrect.
Well, not only incorrect, but either the person who was filling out the contract was intentionally misleading, or the person who turned in the contract was intentionally misleading. One or the other. Either one's enough for me.
I have a problem with there being no other information as far as addresses, telephone numbers. These are just names.
I do have contracts right here that has been revised. That hasn't been sent in.
They haven't been submitted. They're not, so they're not on the record. We don't have anything to look at there today.
We just have this application to vote on today.
So we have a motion and a second to deny. Are there any other questions? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
I believe we had a, Ms. Granger, are you still on the phone?
Yes,
Okay. Did you agree with the all motion to deny?
I did agree with the motion to deny.
Okay, I thought I heard your voice. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant.
I mean, just like anybody else trying to open a school, you're welcome to resubmit an application.
It'll be recorded, but yes, let me write it down. Hold on. Thank you. Thank you. You will have that. Thank you. We will go ahead and proceed. We're going to make sure that they've got the right name of the applicant. We are moving on to our 2020 Continuing Education Seminar Providers Request. I believe we have at least 1 or 2 participants online. So you have before you the first university requesting is the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, UT Conference Center. They've submitted their information for instructor continuing education. They're requesting to have their session on Sunday, July the 19th and Monday, July the 20th. I will let you review their information. And at this point, any of the board members that have attended and have anything else to add, as you know, I review the evaluations. And if I ever see anything for concern, I would make sure that you see them or that we have conversations. So I think as far as almost all of our sessions in general, either the weather, it being too cold in the room or the food not being great, those tend to get the low points. But otherwise, I think our sessions do really well. So, but I welcome the board members that attend. This is your opportunity.
Okay.
I attended the Knoxville one last year on Sunday, and it was an exceptional event. And I was very proud to be a part of this board and attend the level of event that was. Kind of makes you glad you're a barber again. It was well done.
And Ms. Becky, in case any of you all don't know, always also not only is there, but she also is in the group that helps organize that event, and they meet separately, at least once, if not more, to make sure that the session doesn't get stale, that things get updated and so forth. So, and I'm always able to go that kickoff, so it's very well done.
Make a motion to approve the UT continuing education.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve UT's CEU program. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
I'm
Motion
gonna
carries.
abstain. As a committee member, I'll abstain.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have TSU. This is Tennessee State University Avon campus. Ms. Terrell? Good. Give me a second.
Welcome, Mr. L. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Ms. Tiffany Terrell, as some of you know, started this last year for the first year and did fantastic. So this is the second year under her wing. She is requesting the dates for August the 9th and August the 10th, which are a Sunday and Monday session. And Mr. Gillihan, did you attend?
I attended, and I want to echo what Frank just said about Knoxville. I think it was an excellent event. They worked really hard. They put on great education classes, and I think people were extremely well engaged. I expect nothing less this year. And you did a great job on your first time out.
Thank you. We'll be making a few slight changes as you look through the agenda for day 1 and day 2. We're going to have more breakout sessions on day 2 and really getting more back to the basics, sanitation, barbering, aesthetics, cosmetology, breakout sessions. So we're excited about that.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations. We'll see you there.
Yeah.
Next on your iPads is the PBC Incorporated session, and I believe both Ms. Pearl Walker and Ms. Celeste Harris are on the phone. Is that correct? We might have lost them. If not, we'll hear them. And they came last week. Unfortunately, with us sometimes, or usually having the first Monday, it threw them off. So obviously,
I'm here.
There you are. Thank you, Ms. Pearl. I'm so glad. I'm so sorry. We all missed you last week, but I'm glad you're participating telephonically. This is one of the wonderful things of technology. So this session is offered in Cordova. They're asking for 2 separate dates. The first one would be January 12th and 13th, so it's right around the corner. And then September 20th and 21st. I was able to attend this last year, and they do a fantastic job. I've gone in the past as well. Ms. Granger, I believe you were able to attend, or who else in our board went?
Is this?
Yes, I was able to attend one of their sessions, and it is a great, very informative, high energy type of environment. The lunch is always good, of course, and the explanation of the techniques and getting the students involved was actually amazing.
Thank you so much for that feedback. I appreciate it.
We have a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Ross to approve both of those dates. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have Expertise Consulting EDU Incorporated. Ms. Sierra Gordon.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Thank you. I didn't realize you were with us. I'm so glad you're participating telephonically. Ms. Gordon and Expertise Consulting are also asking for 2 different dates and 2 different locations. October the 17th and 18th, they will be in Godlesville, and then the 24th and 25th in Chattanooga. And I was able to attend the one they did this year in Godlesville for the first time in Sears School, which is gorgeous. It's very, very artistic. So any of the members that were able to attend her sessions, we welcome any feedback.
I did attend one of them, and I was just amazed at the level of education and just to inspire the students to continue, and they really took the time to uh, make combine your work with your life, and how when life happens, how you still have to bring that in, and but be professional at the same time. And it was just one of the best classes I've ever been to. I wanted to participate, being in the back, and I wasn't even getting my CEU, so it was excellent, absolutely excellent.
Thank you.
Sarah, this is Ron. Could I just ask you a quick question on the second class? We still have the address to be determined. Have you come up with anything on that since this was sent in, or we're still going to wait on that a bit?
No, Ron, we're still looking into it. We try to find different locations that are in the center of everyone in Chattanooga. I know the last one that we picked seemed to be pretty good, but it was still kind of a little bit ways out for some of the participants. And based on, 2019, 2020, the even years are a pretty busy year in Chattanooga. So we're trying to find somewhere that's more centralized to everybody.
Okay, that's fine.
Make a motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any other discussion?
I attended the one in Chattanooga, and it was very good. It was very motivating. She was teaching about the professionalism, and as Anita said, that when you have problems, don't bring it into your work. She also did a presentation of the updated rules that you had done at a previous session, Roxana. And she had also had planned on PSI being there. They weren't able to. There was a connection problem or whatever. But anyway, she did show the slides of the PSI, the scores, and so forth. So it was very interesting.
Thank you for the update. Thank you.
So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, we have the Educator Success Session, and this is with Miss Stephanie Brown. Miss Brown?
I'm here.
Oh, my goodness. You're all telephonic. I love it. This is well use of technology. Miss Stephanie Brown is joining us telephonically. She has also asked for 2 separate dates for the Memphis area. First one is March 22nd and 23rd. The second one is October 25th and 26th. And you have her information. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend her session, but I did provide her with our update on laws and rules so she could hand out to her students. Were any of you able to attend Ms. Brown's session? I think at the last minute we had something come up with the person. Okay, that was my thought.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have DCI Academy. This is Ms. Destiny Cox. She was planning on being here in person, sent me a note. She's actually, the cold and cough that's going around has gotten her. She's in the hospital. So our prayers will be with her. And she really hated to miss this. She has provided 2 dates now that she is planning on offering our session in May, on May 17th and 18th, as well as November 8th and 9th. And these sessions, I believe, are located in the Memphis area. So she will just be adding a second one to what you see on your iPads on page 152 and 153.
This is Yvette Granger. I was able to attend her first session this year, and it was absolutely amazing as well. With it being her first time out, I did not have a feel of a first time, or I did not have a feel of she didn't know what she was doing. The presentation was really great and clear to the students. The breakout sessions was clear. Lunch was provided. Like, she probably overlunched her students. So I think it was a good thing.
Thank you for sharing that.
I
I
just
appreciate
want to add, Destiny is also a very recognized national speaker in aesthetics and welcome on any platform in the country. And I think it's really a great thing that she does this class. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Ross to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
you. Next, we have Mr. Thomas James. Mr. James. I'm doing good. Give me a second. This session from Mr. James is for continuing education, and he too has selected three different locations and 3 different dates. The first one is March 15th and 16th in Murfreesboro. The next one is June 9th and 10th in Johnson City, and the last date that he needs or is requesting is in Knoxville for September 13th and 14th.
Good to see you again, Thomas. Looks like you've got a busy schedule set up here.
A little bit.
I've attended this session, and it's a great session. And it was in Johnson City, the one that I went to. Really, really needed in that area because, maybe the closest one to there had been Knoxville. So going 2 years in a row and seeing more and more participants, and I see we're moving locations.
Yeah.
We needed more space, so that's good. Great. It was a great session.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you. If those participating telephonically, if I could please ask that you have us on mute. I think we can hear traffic, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you so much. Next, we have Ms. Dixie Russell. This is Farouk Systems. If you give me a minute. The information is starting on page 155 on your iPads. Then Ms. Russell was able to appear briefly and speak to us at the last meeting when they came in. This is a brand-new seminar. It's the only new one that we're going to have this year. I'll let you review. They tentatively have 2 different dates that they're asking for, if I'm not mistaken, or is it just one? No, it's just one. I apologize. I was looking at the wrong one. They are planning on offering this in Smyrna on Saturday, October 17th and Sunday, October the 18th. Their session, I believe, kicks off the Friday evening, but as far as the required 16 hours, it would be those 2 days. And I'll let the board review. As always, we will go ahead and make sure to pass out a sign-up sheet so that we can see which members are able to attend. If you've got any questions, the only reminder I always pose, if we see that a sponsor is there for the session, is that there cannot be any merchandise, anything along this. Our statute is pretty clear that nothing like that is available at the sessions for sale.
And did you see that Ron is teaching one of these classes?
Oh yeah, he's going to do
Are you really
great.
sure about that?
Disapprove.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other questions or discussions? I would just reiterate what Roxana just said. They're well aware that they're primarily a products and retail company, but they're well aware that there's no sales or marketing going on during those sessions. There are, however, some events preceding and after the events that people might be able to be at if they want to participate. But that will be outside of the hours of operation. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. And I abstain, so motion carries.
Can you at least bring some of Farouk's olives to the event?
We can't even get them to work for him.
He sent me some. They're great.
That's right across the road from our corporate office.
Thank you. And the last session that we have is on your iPads on page 159. Thank you, sweetie. This is KINCC Education Group, Miss Kimberly Anderson. I'll start it off and let. Thank you. Thank you, Brent, for being available. So this time, Ms. Anderson is going to be presenting two different ways to do the session. She's got the traditional 2-day session in person, and so that's what we'll discuss here first, and you have it on your iPad. She is requesting 3 different locations, Memphis, Nashville, and Clarksville for her sessions. The dates in Memphis are March 8th and 9th, as well as June 13th and 14th. In Nashville, she has July 12th and 13th, and in Clarksville, August the 9th and 10th. So she will be very busy. She also has a platform that she's developed to do this online, and I explained that at this current time, we don't have any online providers, but we're always welcome to view everything. So if we could have a motion for the in-person, if that's okay with the board, given that it's dates and you've got everything in front of you, then we can proceed, and I think it may take us a minute to ask questions or look at what she's setting up to show on the projector.
I attended her class in Clarksville, and she did a great job. She had the whole class motivated, and she was very not boring. So they learned a lot. I mean, she kept them on their toes, and she really did a great demonstration.
And I'm thinking to go to the Clarksville one as well. It was a good group.
I speak.
Absolutely.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having me and for an opportunity to serve. The June dates is actually the 14th and 15th, so it's not Saturday and Sunday, it's Sunday and Monday.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the 3 in-person events.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 3 in-person events. Is there any other discussion or questions? Yes, ma'am.
There's actually 4.
One's online.
There's 2 dates for
two
Memphis.
in Memphis,
Okay.
one in
One
Clarksville, one in Nashville.
Yeah. So it's 4 dates.
Good. Okay. See that now. Sorry.
As my motion, I apologize. Thank you for that.
Okay.
There are 4 in-person dates.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Good luck. Congratulations.
Gotcha.
So while we're waiting on him, I'll just give a brief overview of what I'm getting ready to present. This is an online platform. I know that there has been some challenges with online in the past. It is my goal to provide the same level of education in person, but with the online feel. So I wanted to give it the feel of a college course without all of the complexities. This is not a program that our participants will be able to run through. They will have to complete assignments, also turning them in to an instructor to be approved before they can move to the next segment. All of the segments within this lesson are prerequisites, so you cannot move forward without completing each segment. I have what I'm presenting today is one of the lessons within, but there will be a total of 16 lessons. 2 of them will include PSI as well as the state board rules and regulations that have been updated. Have any popcorn?
Would the board care if we continued and maybe came back that way? What would you prefer? Ms. Kimberly, you think you're almost there?
Well, he's saying I need to actually shut it down and
Okay.
reboot, so.
Why don't you keep at it and then interrupt me? Because some of the pieces we can get through, no one's going to need to be there. That's good. And I'll keep an eye on you.
Okay.
When it's up and running, or we'll see it.
Let me get my other iPad and I can work it from
You
there.
got it. It's all yours. Thank you. Okay, if it's okay with the board, we're going to proceed. We're looking at our applications to test next on our agenda. And these start on your iPads on page 164. You have applications for William Fester, Mario Johnson, Megan Johnson, Wayne Jones, William Sullivan, Amanda Tyndall, and Julian Upshaw. These applicants have felonies within the last 3 years and/or are currently incarcerated. The request is to take the Tennessee examination and therefore obtain their licensure. The requirement information, disclosure form from the student, and letter recommendation have all been submitted for your review. If approved, the board agrees to allow applicants to complete an agreed order for a probationary period of 2 years. That is prepared by legal. I'll let you review the documents, and if anything needs to be done differently, please let me know. Otherwise, we proceed with them all as approved.
Make the motion to approve with the 2-year probationary period.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to accept these with the 2-year probationary period. An agreed order. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll start with we'll wrap up our reciprocity applications, if that's okay with you. The Reciprocity Committee reviewed 8 applicants, and we would need the full board to approve those. Mr. Gillihan, unless you wanted to go into any details of any of them?
I believe of the 8, we approved 2 outright. We had one that, we had 3 that required both tests. For 2, we had required a practical, and then 1 represent in February. Okay. Motion. Approve.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to approve. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And a quick update, since our last board substantially met the requirement based on our last decision, and so did have to watch the meeting to make sure that I had the right words of what we were accepting. So I think it's going to be a good thing. We're definitely feeling it in the office, so I appreciate that, and thank you, and I know our licensees thank you. On the miscellaneous piece, we're going to start on your iPads on page 191. The first request is a request to waive the need to retest pursuant to Rule 0440-1-.10, which states that an applicant must apply for and pay for an original license within 6 months after passing examination. The board may, for good cause, waive this requirement. The board previously had authorized the director to approve the extensions past the 6 months, but only for up to 1 year. In this particular case, Ms. Shalyn Harris has passed her practical aesthetics exam, and she passed it on July 5th of 2018. Therefore, she's passed the year. She's provided an explanation for the delays, which include difficulty with the system, but they also include an issue with paying the fee. She qualifies for the new piece, which is a qualified low fee waiver. So by the time she applied, she was able to qualify for that and obtain her license free, and so she's asking that we approve her license and she not need to retest.
Make a motion that we approve her license.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve her license. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have a request for an approval of a manicurist license. This is for Hien Kim Hui. Ms. Hui was licensed by Reciprocity from Texas in 2011. That license was revoked in 2013 for failure to obtain licensure as the statute requires. Since then, she's attended a school in Tennessee and passed both exams. And her practical exam was passed in August 2019. She is asking the board for her license.
Motion that we get her license.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to get her license.
Better go to work.
Any other discussion?
Go to work.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have a request for a manicurist license for Ann Kim Nguyen. Ms. Nguyen was licensed by Reciprocity and had that license revoked. She then reapplied again by Reciprocity from Texas in 2013. That case went before an administrative law judge. She attended, and that license has just recently been revoked. She's attended a school in the second license she obtained was in one of the Texas schools under investigation. Therefore, the conclusion of that investigation was that she never lived in Texas. She was living in Tennessee all along. And in November 2019, that license was revoked. During 2017, while still holding that last license, she attended a school in Memphis. She passed the practical exams in September of 2019. And she's unique. This is the first time that we've revoked someone twice. But
she has taken her classes in Memphis, right?
Does the board have a recommendation?
This is unique. The only thing that came to my mind that I've not done, so I think if the board would like me to, I'd welcome a motion. The school that she attended in 2017 is listed before you, but I could audit those hours and make sure that the student is on the monthly hours for each of those months, totaling the 600 hours. The office does audits randomly. For the most part, we're very blessed with good schools, but in any case, I can definitely, there's always a time where my staff or I do audits, and if the board would like, because this is unique with the 2 revocations, I welcome your thoughts on that.
Is there anyone besides myself that would like to see this person come and appear before the board and answer some questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to see the audit of the hours. I think that is time well spent.
The motion?
So we're thinking about auditing the hours and appearing before the board? So we have a motion?
Don't take this the wrong way. If the hours aren't there,
Don't need to
It won't
come.
make any difference.
I don't need to see her in person.
Yeah. And if the hours are there, you want to see her?
If the hours are there, I'd still like to see her.
Okay.
Brown's dying to see it one way or the other.
I get it.
Fair.
Okay. So that's a motion by Patty?
Yes.
And
Have,
do you have a
however you want to
second?
word it, yeah.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second to audit the hours, and if the hours are present, to have this person appear before the board. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
And next on your iPads is a request for approval of a manicurist license. In this particular case, Mr. Lou Fantran is here before you if you do have any questions. His license was by reciprocity from Texas in 2013. That license was revoked in November 2019 for failure to obtain licensure as the statute required. While that case was going on, and I believe due to confusion that the case was still open, he went ahead and did attend a school in Memphis in 2018. I apologize, this school was in Lebanon. He passed the practical exam in October 2018, and appears that he was going to school thinking that the complaint had, in fact, revoked his license, that he needed to go to school again. He's here if you do have any questions pursuant to 0440-10-1-.10, he would need to retest since he took his exam so long ago. So in his particular case, he's asking for consideration of his license because he's passed and that the exams be accepted.
Has he taken the exams?
He has. On your iPads on page 218 and 219, you will see he completed the education in Lebanon, Tennessee by apprenticeship and passed the practical on October the 10th of 2018.
So given that we are considering approving the license?
Correct. If we approve the license, then obviously the exams are accepted, and he would need to worry about, he would fall very similar to the first applicant. His license went through the revocation process from the issue we had years ago from Texas applicants, and therefore, he is here to answer questions. I also spoke to him because the confusion on my part was why he went to school while the case was still open. He really thought that the case had been resolved and he'd lost that license, so he attended school.
Get that out of the way.
I'm familiar with Lebanon Beauty and Style, and Ms. Roxanne over there works really hard to try to have a good class. I've been over there to visit with them in the past, so.
Then I'd like to make a motion to approve the exams and grant the license.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
He did, like I said, come in person, but I just let him know that he's approved.
Good.
Congratulations.
Good. Good. You're welcome.
Okay, then we'll keep going. Okay, speaking of schools in Tennessee, you have before you on the last item under our miscellaneous, this is a PSI incident. You'll see the report on page 226. On October 14th, 2019, the Nashville Theory site had a cheating incident, involved Ms. Thai Mai Duen Cao. Ms. Cao failed a theory exam previously and was using index cards to record the questions. PSI took photographs as well as the cards on the last item on page 232. I contacted the school just to make the school aware and to see if the student was still attending. This is an apprentice student, so obviously they cannot start working in a shop under someone until they pass this theory, and she's been struggling with it. The director of the school had said that the student wasn't coming anymore. She didn't expect him, but I thought it was important for the school to be aware whatever the board's decision was. We've had, unfortunately, previous incidents like this, and in those cases, in prior cases of cheating, the board has decided to block the individual from testing for up to a year. Pardon me. And then if the applicant does continue school and passes the exams, they must come before the board, either for the license or before we put them through to test. It has depended on the incident, so I leave that decision up to you.
I certainly don't think any of us condone cheating, so.
Can't cheat just a little bit, so I'm good with.
I make a motion to have her hold her license or hold her testing ability for a year.
And then report.
I second
And then
that.
reappear for the board.
So we have a motion and a second to hold her from testing for a year and have her appear before the board before she proceeds. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. I think we're still working. We'll interrupt at any point, but I appreciate you all moving on. We will do the director's report, if that's okay. On your iPads on page 234. This won't take long. Good. And then we'll get right back to you. Thank you, Ms. Kimberly. Final numbers for fiscal year 2019 show a surplus of $284,184. This leaves the program with a reserve of $899,060. Between July through October, we've added an additional $154,000 to the surplus, putting us right at about $1 million. The program spends every bit of $2 million and brings in every bit of $2 million. So I think those are still very realistic, responsible numbers. They don't concern me at all. I didn't see anything that would flag us. I know that we are looking at the next phase of our technology and on our online piece. And the last item under the director's report is on page 238 that I did want to show you, but I welcome any questions that you have regarding the financials. Again, they don't, I think they put us at a much more comfortable place, especially if we have cases in litigation and what have you. We're slowly at a good place. What I did on page 238 is just give us a recap of our active licenses, just for your review. We're right under 69,000 licensees in the profession. So definitely within Commerce and Insurance, it's the largest program we have. We have 5,194 barber licenses, and Ron, as you mentioned, forever we were below that 5,000. Forever, I can't.
Very proud of that now.
That's just such a cool thing to see. Barber schools, we have 24, and then shops, 1,700. Then within the cosmetology field, we have 53,073 licensees, total of 71 licensed schools, and the shops are 8,735. And so I think the industry's definitely strong and continues to grow.
Could I ask that going forward, you just include the instructor licenses under each category as well?
I will, and I don't know how to say this. So instructors get a modifier. So in other words, both Patricia and Ron and Ms. Becky, you count as barbers and cosmetologists. So I'll find a way for that total number to pull. It isn't that easy, whereas this I ran myself in 10 minutes. Under barber instructors, I think we're right at about 193 the last time we did a public records request. And so I think we have 1,100 cosmetology instructors, and that would be aesthetics, manicure, and natural hair, right? The different disciplines. So I'll definitely give us a number. I appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right.
Is there an extraction number of how many estheticians?
Pardon me?
Is there an extraction number of how many estheticians there is to a specific number?
You mean within instructors or just that license type?
That license type.
Oh, there is. I don't have it.
Okay.
But there is, yes.
Yeah.
It's growing fast.
Oh, it's huge.
Absolutely. And so if for the next meeting, we want a breakdown by license type, I'm happy to do that. Those just take more. We have so many, we call them ranks, but it's definitely obtainable. So I like doing that, so you get a feel for where the industry is.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for us to know, growing and where the trends are.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there also a mandate, you talk about the reserves, and I agree that it's nice to have those reserves for the what comes next. Is there any state mandate that talks about the percentage of reserves that must be there or must not?
That is a really good question. If I'm incorrect, I apologize, but having been at several sunset hearings, especially when I was holding 15 programs, now I'm down to 9, so that's awesome. So based on those hearings, there is nothing written that says how much you have to. You have to be, you have to self-sustain your program. But the trend or the comfort level seems to be 1.5 times what you need each
okay.
year. So that would put us at 3 million that we'd
Before
have.
we would even need to.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that. But it's, we're billed for a lot of the cost backs based on number of licensees, so we're hit hard because we have a lot of licensees. For complaints, we're billed on number of complaints. Today, we presented 92 complaints. We've had higher at one point, but now that we're leveled off, that's the highest it's been for a little bit. So, does that give you some?
Just curious.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you. So if it's okay with the board, we will have our last topic and then the legal report to reiterate and get Pam's answers from. But if we can turn it over to Ms. Anderson, she's been so patient, I appreciate it. All yours.
Did you pull that microphone up?
Yeah, we couldn't hear you.
There's a glitch in the matrix between the cord that he has and what's connecting to my computer. So it keeps kind of going.
Oh, it wouldn't be any fun if it just worked all the time.
They just got
powered up. So.
Awesome, it's gone. Sitting by itself, it shouldn't be doing it. It feels lonely. I'm gonna go meet the other one here in a minute.
We're doing all
It's the one I want to talk about right here.
It's on, but it just keeps, it's something going on with the connection here. Okay. All right, I think I'm ready. Sorry, guys. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
No.
It's going to test you to the end. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to just try to hold the cord and hopefully.
We'll pray about it right now.
Okay, so what you're looking at on your screen right now is the dashboard for this particular course. So as you can see at the top, it shows you the student how much they have completed. And this is in preview mode for the sake of I'm waiting for, your wonderful approval. So within the course, I can pull it up on another device, but he doesn't have the cord for it. Within this course, there are several lessons. So there's one chapter that's here. Within this one chapter, within the one chapter, there are 4 lessons. So each week, one lesson is dispersed for the student to perform, but they have the option to perform at least 2 a week. I wanted to pace it so that, number one, they wouldn't run through the information, but number two, that they would get the benefits of the content that was available for them. As I said, there are several lessons within the segments. This chapter, which talks about mapping the master, it talks about lesson 1, actually consists of the profile and character traits and qualities of a master. Lesson 2 talks about understanding the mindset of a master educator. Lesson 3 also includes mapping out an actual mission statement for the educator to determine where they're going with their career and how they are going to produce successful students. So those are the lessons that are within there. And within there are quizzes. There are video assignments to watch where they have to ask questions from. The pop quizzes only consist of 3 to 4 questions, and it's just to ensure that the instructor is not only listening, but also retaining the information that's being presented. There are also presentations with a voiceover, so it's not someone just looking at a screen continuously. So there are voiceover presentations as well, and it's basically the same class that I've provided in person. It's an online version, but with a lot of exercises and activities to keep them engaged. So it's not something that they can just play and leave. They have to continue and hit next with each slide within the presentation in order to move to the next level.
Have a certain amount of time, I'm sorry, do they have a certain amount of time before they can hit next, or can they?
There's not a certain amount of time, but within each lesson, there are anywhere from 3 to 7 slides. So there's one chapter, and within that chapter, there are 4 lessons. So they can go within those lessons and actually go through, and I'm going to try to show you if this will allow. Fingers crossed. So for instance, in this lesson here, as it's uploading and hopefully will stick, it defines, this is one of the slides. There are 3 slides in this particular lesson, and this is basically defining the master. Right here, they have to hit complete and continue in order to go to the next slide. It will be to their advantage not to rush through it, because there is a quiz afterwards where they have to actually retain some of the information in order to perform the quiz, prompting them to go to the next segment. So they, even if they decide to skip a slide, they'll find themselves going back in order to answer the questions or to complete any of the quizzes or the essay questions that are there.
Well, maybe the option to push next isn't even lit until they get through the section. Does that answer your?
In this case, as they're reading each slide, it's complete and continue.
Right, but then to go on to the next chapter.
Right. But in order to go to the next chapter, there's always an assignment of
Okay.
some sort to complete before you can go to the next lesson. I have no sound.
You're going to have to use the microphone on
Okay. Let me see.
on your laptop.
can-
Lip sync?
Like put it down. Now plug this. Juice.
This
Yeah.
here.
Not, I'm not.
Approve one thing. We approve one more. That way you take it. Can I get the board back to the legal report while they reboot? I think this is going to work because it's going off her tablet, which we're hoping will work, and that way she can answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to turn it over to Pam for the legal report, which has to, as the full board, be voted on. And Pam was checking on, I believe, 3 or 4 cases. That way we'll be down just to our new topic and get everybody on track. Thank you.
Still morning. Good morning to everyone. The committee met this morning, approved the legal report, but asked me to check on a couple of things, so I want to bring those to your attention, and also I'm happy to answer any questions that the full board has. Also, you should have an addendum, a paper addendum to the legal report, which is case complaints numbers 87 through 92. I passed that out this morning. If anyone doesn't have one, if you'll let me know.
Is it?
Yeah, she has.
Okay.
On number 17, the committee had a question about the collection issue that's contained in the history. This matter did go to collections in the past and has been determined to be uncollectible, just so you know, Ms. Russell. That does not change the current recommendation. It was just a question that Ms. Russell had. The next question that the committee had was on number 37. There was a question about whether a letter of warning was appropriate, given this is a move of location, suite to suite. The only addition I have is that no services were being provided at the time. It remains, it's a change of location involving a suite. There was some discussion by the committee on whether this should be considered an unlicensed shop, and the recommendation would then be changed to a $1,000 civil penalty with authorization of a formal hearing. So that matter will need to be discussed and/or approved. The current recommendation, or if the board wants to institute a new recommendation of a $1,000 civil penalty.
Was it clear on our part, if and when they do move, that should be a procedure?
Right. It was clear in the notice of violation, yes.
So she just moved from one suite to another suite, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Somebody else went from one shop to another shop. One got fined, one didn't.
Need to do the same straight across the board, whatever you're doing.
And that's kind of what was brought up at the meeting, not so much the exact particular one against the other, as much as what do we govern moving forward to not get subjective.
Right.
I think
Respondent did acknowledge, just so you all know the mistake, I don't mean that clears this matter, I'm just letting you know that they did acknowledge it to the inspector, that they were unaware that a suite change without a physical change of location required them to go through the board.
They still had to change their mailing address and everything, you know.
Well, I think that's part of where the confusion comes, is because the mailing address might be the same.
It's just a suite and not an
inspection.
Yeah.
Be the same if you.
Yeah. Well, they pretty. I mean, it's unfortunate. A lot of times, if a barber or whoever, a licensee, if they're operating out of a suite, they might work. Like myself, I'm there one day a week, so it's almost difficult for an inspector to do a surprise, visit. And I think it also depends on how many suites are in the building. If you're in a building with 3 suites, Is it that hard to find? You know, it's.
But how do we go, where's the line for us to govern?
I know. Well, these are all problems that I'm mentioning. If you're in a building with 100 suites, that's a big difference. If you're on the first floor and then you move to the third floor, but you know, still have the same mailing address, maybe all the mail comes to a receptionist and then she distributes the mail. I mean, it's some things we need to think about.
Well, that's the dynamics of the location, right? But at the end of the day, isn't each suite considered an owner?
Yes.
So if an owner's moving from one location to another, doesn't that owner have the responsibility to let the board know?
Yes, as long as we let them know that even though they don't have to change their mailing address, we're considering that you're moving locations. I don't think the suite owners really know that before they do. Maybe it would just be a notice or something, you know.
But if I move from one store to another on my street, I could say, well, it's kind of the same street.
You're changing mailing addresses, though, and locations. I mean, if they're not changing, they're not changing their name, they're not changing the owners, they're not changing the address. We just need to let them know, yes, you still have to submit for a location change. So the inspectors will know, but mainly it's the reason why.
Right.
I'm kind of like Frank. I think if you're an owner and you're moving anywhere, you still got to give your notice and you got to be responsible.
Change is taking
and you
place,
know
right? Anytime
the laws,
change
you know the
is
state
taking
laws.
place,
Yeah. Well, but from my experience, you know, as a suite owner, they're not thinking about
That's
how it. Well, because they don't have to think about that. All they're thinking about is, I'm just going to work out of this room instead of this one. They're not thinking about, well, it just has to be documented in the office. You know, they're not thinking about that. They know they're still being inspected. They know they still have to, they just don't
So the
think
guy
about
that moved
that.
across the street knew that. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to be a business owner, it's your responsibility to know what the rules and regulations
Well,
are.
there is a change of location application. There's not an application that says, you know, you have to change your location even if you're not moving physical addresses. I just think we need to communicate that and not assume
what is
that
the
people
fine?
know that.
I will say that $1,000, this is not an unlicensed shop, so $1,000 would not be the appropriate civil penalty. And we don't, in our agreed citation schedule, have a penalty for that.
You don't have a change of location penalty?
Not a specific penalty.
Maybe that's the true discussion that's on the floor, is what do we do moving forward?
Right.
You know?
The main piece that the inspectors do is, one, educate, right? Because you opened and you shouldn't have completed the application. We make sure that you complete it. In some cases, the move literally, they expected the field inspector to come in and they opened and are running business, and it's a matter of days and they completed and it's a misunderstanding, that kind of thing. There's situations where when we've gone to the inspection, other things are really wrong. So they have unlicensed individuals, they're not complying with other things. So the case changes because of that. So there isn't a all fit in the box. With the salon suites, where the confusion comes in, is they do have an actual license and the address hasn't changed. They're in the same suite, they're in the same place. They moved across the hall or to the other end of the large shop. And so usually that letter of instruction or letter of warning is what we've gone with. That has been historical because it's a little bit different from the shop that moves from one corner of the state to the other, and then depending what else we've found. I believe if they don't have a license and it's unlicensed activity, meaning they moved their license, but it's still active, but they didn't get an inspection. I don't know the amount. It's not $1,000. It may be right at the $500 or $250 because our purpose is you still weren't inspected. We don't know that you met everything. So I'd have to look at that. If you all remember, I think 5 years ago, maybe, we came up with that schedule for each violation. So it's in there. The salon suites are just trickier because there's no change of address. And in their minds, often, I didn't really move. So we treat them depending on what's going on. In this case, they weren't even open. Is that correct? Correct. Yeah.
And in a lot of situations, not only has that physical address not changed, the the setup of the suite hasn't changed. You still have the same equipment, the same
Sharing.
Well, and I'm talking about the requirements for the salon, the hot, cold running water.
Exactly.
That's all.
What you share. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I agree that we should discuss the fee schedule or the warning schedule for all business locations to be treated the same, regardless of whether you're a suite owner or a salon owner. I know if I moved one of my physical locations even 2 doors down, I would want the same treatment then as a suite owner moving 2 doors down. I don't know we handle it that way. So I think if we are erring on the side of a warning and then a fee, then that just be applicable to all of our locations.
Well, but that's totally different. I mean, maybe like Roxana said, educating, the
But it can't be different. I mean, if we're monitoring this as it can't be, there cannot be exceptions. I mean, if you are a business owner, regardless of whether you own a business with 5 chairs or with 1 chair, you're the licensee.
Right.
And I don't want us to get in hot water with there being exceptions for where that license is.
Well,
And
how
so
can-
I'm not
I
saying that this is
understand that.
warranting a $1,000 fine.
No.
But I think it needs to be very set, like we have with all other fees, of what the expectation is.
But if they're not changing their physical location and their physical mailing address, how can you implement
they're
that?
changing what got inspected and licensed. That's changing.
Yes,
So the
but
second you take that shift and change should be notified. I mean, so this is 500 Robertson. What if I went from the corner of the first floor here on the corner
Yes.
to the very, very back corner on the 5th floor on the other corner? Shouldn't somebody know that we're no longer there?
Yes.
Well, that's kind of what we're saying.
Well, but do you think we should assume that people are going to know that?
Yes. I think we should create something where everyone should know that.
They're supposed to. They're
That
taught in law.
suite rental is not taught in schools.
No, licensing law is.
I know, but it's all based off your physical address.
Maybe the suite owners need to post.
That's what I'm saying. It just there
Something
needs
so
to be
that
education.
they are letting their people that are renting from them know, but still it's the renter's responsibility to make the change.
To do yes, absolutely.
Not the suite owners.
But you can't just assume that they would know that because they're not thinking about that. I'm just saying this is why things like that happen.
I don't
I
think
agree.
it merits $1,000. I think that's a little stiff.
And there may be other circumstances involved when the $1,000 penalty, for example, this particular complaint, number 37, there was no one in the shop. I'm not discounting that the change of location occurred without the proper application, but there were no services being provided. So legal takes that into account. What we could do is let me look at this with Roxana, not necessarily this complaint. I would ask you to approve the recommendation of the letter of warning for this particular complaint, and then we can put this on the agenda for February if we need to look at the citation schedule,
That's kinda how
which
this
may
whole
be
thing
a good
started.
thing for us to do.
A good
I
start.
I agree with you. I think that's what brought this whole thing up this morning, was the fact that it's not so much this one specific case, but it certainly brought light to it being an unlevel playing field for a licensed business.
And it'll happen again is the
Well, the good news is
thought.
we've looked at a lot of cases over the last couple of years, and I don't recall this being one that comes up all that often. So the good news is this isn't happening a lot, but I think it is something that we can get in front of, especially as more and more suites are opening and more folks are doing that, and, how to make that happen. I would hope that that person who owns the suite business could happily have that paperwork available as part of that process.
Their
But
contractor or something, let them know.
that's right, but I do think if you're going from one end to the other, or your mailing address has changed and your suite is part of that, that you follow the same rules as everyone else.
They should be different. Okay, so I want to make a motion to approve this recommendation and then to reevaluate it again in the, February meeting?
Yeah, put it on the
Put it on
itinerary
the
for February.
agenda to discussion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Then on number 52.
Yes.
There was a question about the inspection. Actually, after looking at this complaint further, this is an individual complaint, not a shop complaint. So the inspector went to the location, and it's by appointment only. So the inspection was in August 2019. I don't know if sending it out for another inspection, what that will accomplish at this point. My other concern is that I would like on the record to change my recommendation because this is an individual and not the shop. What I would like to do is recommend that this complaint be closed with a request for an inspection of the shop. I can't speak for why the complaint was opened against the individual. This is likely what could be conceived as the owner. But I think it would be more appropriate, given the question that was asked in the committee meeting about whether there had been another inspection, to request that this complaint be closed with a request for an inspection to the shop, because we do have the shop name. So I apologize for that. But further, after I looked at it further, especially given the question about the inspection, I think it would be more appropriate to close this complaint and request an inspection of the shop.
We've all heard the recommendation. Is there any disagreement with that?
I'll make a motion that we go with Ms. Spicer's recommendation.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second to amend the recommendation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
And I don't have any other matters to bring to your attention from the committee meeting, so I would ask that the board approve the legal report.
Make a motion to approve the legal report.
Second.
As amended.
And a second. Oh, was it Judy? Seconded by Judy. We've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for the hard work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, we will turn it over to Ms. Anderson, who has been so kind and patient with all of this. I think you're on a roll now.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you.
So as I was saying before, this is what you see on the left side is the actual course in its entirety. Of course, there's only one chapter listed for the sake of this being a pilot program. So within it, it starts off with the welcoming of the course. Within the welcome, of course, you have the instructor giving affirmations and just giving a little small bio about themselves. And then the next one kind of gives an overview of how to use the course. And then there's a let's get started understanding the why the course was created, what they can expect, and how the course came about. Then there's the actual lesson that you're looking at now under Mapping the Master. There are a total of 11 different things under here, but there are 4 different lessons within this one chapter. So the first one, of course, starts with defining the master, as I previously stated, and then there's a video behind that. So the first one, Master Defined, is a presentation of 3 slides. Next is what is an educator? That's a video. As you can see, all of them are prerequisites, and then those 2 lessons, Master Defined and What is an Educator, has a pop quiz just to ensure that the student is retaining the information, and they do have to score 100%. It's only 3 slides. They have to score 100% in order to move on. It's multiple choice. And then we talk about here the qualities of a master, which goes further to describe the different aspects of some of the character traits and quality traits that a master educator should have. The P2P, that is called Points to Ponder. That is a section in my in-person classes. We provide a workbook for the student to actually work through during the presentation. That's mostly fill in the blank. So the Points to Ponder is a time of self-reflection where the educator actually, in this particular one, actually talks about, and I'm going to pull it up for you. The educator actually talks about what keeps the things that are going on in their lives that keep them balanced, what makes them unbalanced, and then things that how they balance different things within their personal lives in order to still maintain a master educator role, and what things could you do differently. So this is an example of one of the worksheets that they will have to complete. This one is a submission, so it's actually an assignment. They have to complete this assignment, fill out the questions, and then submit it to the instructor. Once the instructor approves this particular sheet, then they're able to move on to the next section. So that's just to give you an example of what it looks like. Also, within the lesson, going back to the chapters, that's me. Trying to get back to the actual screen where the preview was. So within the lesson, you have the quizzes, you have the worksheets, you have videos, then we talk about the character of a master, and then right here, there's an essay question for the master educator. There are 4 questions. I'll give you an example of what question 1 looks like. It says, why is character important as it relates to being an educator? And me being the instructor that I am, I will not accept any answers that appear to just be able to get through it. I'm looking for some concrete things, because this is the making of a master program is supposed to be a time of self-assessment and self-reflection in order to identify some of the areas that we need to improve in order to produce successful students. So that's just giving you a run through. So this is 1 chapter. Again, there are 4 lessons. I'm trying to give you some different examples within this lesson. This one, this is the mission of a master, where they're actually doing this is the actual presentation in itself, the learning outcomes, as well as they are developing a professional plan. Now, each one of these are actually within the slides. There's a continue, and there's going to be a voiceover here under my professional development plan, as well as the mission. Then you have quotes to keep them inspired and motivated throughout. Definitions, not to say that they're not intelligent, but just using definitions as a way and a vehicle to bring home the point of what a mission actually is. And so these are some of the examples of some of the slides that the master will be responsible for, even mapping out their mission statement. This is a submission that they have to turn in after filling in those 4 blocks, the rectangular box at the bottom of the screen. Then they are to write out a personal mission statement. Again, it's an assignment. It has to be improved by the instructor before they can move on to the next section. So this is a synopsis of what you can expect within this online course. And I welcome your questions at this time.
Glad we got to see that.
Absolutely.
Assuming all the content and all the information is teaching methodology and all the things that we already understand, I think the questions and difficulties that we've had with any of these programs has always been in how we actually have a fair measurement system of the meeting the requirement for the number of hours and the time they spend. So your system measures and has safeguards in place to prevent someone from racing through the course, not spending the correct amount of time.
Absolutely.
You have components here that also will help to break out mandatory breaks. And I understand on online people work at some kind of pace sometimes, but the regulation requires that every 2 hours there's a break, I believe. With online, I know that's a little bit easier to maintain because they may only work in components for a few minutes here and a few minutes there. But you do have mechanisms to track the actual time that they're spending.
I do not have a tracking for the actual time they're spending, but each lesson, each chapter is 1 hour. And that includes the lessons that are done, a minimum of 1 hour that they'll spend. I've actually did several pilots to this program, presented to other instructors that are that I'm connected with to get the feel of the time. I went through the program myself to get the flow of what the time frame looks like, and it's about an hour. Of course, if it's someone that is extremely intellectual, wants to expound upon points, then it could be longer, but there's no need for the break because each chapter is only 1 hour, and only 2 of those chapters are released a week. So for someone that moves at a faster pace, they can do 2 chapters a week. But for someone that may not be as tech savvy, they're going to move at a more moderate pace, they can only do 1 lesson a week. So you have the option to do either 1 lesson a week or 2, but there will be no need for a break because it's only 1 hour.
Becky, I know you've reviewed some of these. What's in your mind?
I want it to work so bad.
You know, and I kind of feel like we've been really on this hours thing, and people do learn in different ways, and they learn at different, times. Some are accelerated learners, and it's only frustrating to them to slow them down into this capsule of these hours. And I would suggest that the quality is here, and that's what we should really focus on. It meets a dynamic. I mean, no one on this board is tech-savvy 14-year-old that you have to hire to open up your business every day. But, we really need to have things that are technology savvy to introduce everyone to these types of quality education opportunities. And it's used in nursing, it's used in physician care, other non-physician entities of medical components, and why it couldn't be used for our continuing education, because we're hunting down on these hours, which in regulatory, that may change next year anyway, or the next year, because everybody wants to change the hours anyway. I just think we ought to look at the quality and the community that we're going to involve in getting quality education.
I agree.
So you can do one class, 1 chapter a week, correct? And each chapter is an hour.
Yes.
So my only ask would be, from our previous experience with this online class, that many of the folks that I spoke with who took the online class chose to do the online class because they needed their hours like tomorrow. And so I would just ask that if we approve this and if you promote it and advertise it, that the folks who are agreeing to take this realize that they're not going to have their hours completed for several months, really, because you're saying that this is going to take 16 weeks?
If they're 2 hours, if someone completes 2 hours within a week, it's an 8-week program.
But that's the max. That's the fastest you could go, because of the turnaround of. And I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that the folks who are signing up to do this realize that that is how your program works.
Absolutely. I'm questioning whether I would like to add more lessons, because before I considered having more hours, but then you factor in the breaks, you factor in someone sitting in front of a screen for a long period of time, not actually absorbing content. Basically, at this point, they're just going through and just typing something for the sake of finishing. But I set it up, if there's 2 lessons a week, that consists of 8 weeks. And then I also offer a 4-week grace, which will total 12 weeks for someone that may move at a slower pace.
Or take a break.
Yes. And the great thing about it is, if, let's say they do 1 lesson and they complete it, they do 1 chapter, they complete it, they move on to chapter 2. Well, if they decide they get tired, they need to pick up the kids, the husband wants dinner, when they log back in, it goes right back to where they were. And the percentage of the completion is still there. So it puts them right back where they were. They don't have to start over. So with that being said, definitely with the disclaimer, even by accepting the course, there is a video that has been comprised that actually explains that in its entirety, and they'll actually view that video before they get into the program and before they pay. So at the time that they pay, they are agreeing to up to 12 weeks to complete this program. So it's not going to be something they can complete immediately.
They'll have to plan ahead.
Yes, I am considering making it faster, but it still probably won't be more than 3 or 4 chapters a week.
Well, I mean,
I still don't think they can absorb this type of content and truly bring out the master educator they're destined to be if I accelerate it just for the sake of them completing hours. I mean, proper planning, this is December. If we're approved, they'll have from January up until the end of the year within that 2-year frame to actually collect those 16 hours. So it's not something that I'm doing just for the convenience. I really want them to truly absorb what is being taught in these lessons and really do some self-reflecting to determine that just because you think you're a master, through self-reflection, you may find that you're not. And you may need to do some other things to improve your learning.
No, I think I don't have a pro or con. I think it's a very interesting way to set it up.
When are you hoping to roll this out?
I'm shooting for January. If it's approved, like I said, the lessons are already here because they are the lessons that we have taught in the making of a master in-person class. We're just putting a more online feel to it and holding them a little bit more accountable for the assignments to ensure that they're not rushing through it.
I think you're going to find that every member of this board is thrilled about the idea and the possibilities of some online work with these things. It just makes so much sense to all of us, and I think it would be incorrect to think that anybody here is not in favor of that. We've had previous experiences, and the things that always come to my mind are being fair to all the other licensees who are going, and actually I know Mona spoke to the hours component, but that is what the rule is. And that's just what it is right now. If it changes in the future, then that's when we'd have to deal with it. But being fair to them, I think that for my mind, I'd like to understand a little bit about the safeguards you have in place on being able to speed through things, or taking as long as you want. That's a whole nother thing. That's not going to be a negative unless they run out of time on their license. But the speeding through and the cutting corners and things like that are real concerns that I personally have. Would you have an objection to having some board members review a chapter or review the whole program and see if that is something that is going to kind of pass muster? In past, we've had these things so that you could go through it in just a few minutes. Is that something that'd be open for you?
I'm very open to that.
Okay. For the board members, in order to not hold her up too much, if we can get this thing reviewed and don't find any those type problems with it, would it be fair to give Roxanna the authority to approve this if the safeguards hold true and there's no problems with that, so that she didn't have to wait till February for the next meeting?
I would think that would be fair.
If we review it, it's going to take us 12 weeks to go through.
Well, I assume there's a way you can unlock that.
You can unlock that for us?
I can unlock it in order to accommodate that request, yes.
Well, I think it is interesting with the assignment portion, right? If you're asking folks to submit, I'm assuming, answers to questions or paperwork or anything like that, I mean, that is certainly where quite a few hours would be spent doing that work, turning it in, and they turn it into you.
That is a component.
And then you would review it as the professor and approve it in order for them to move on. So if they're turning in gobbledygook, you don't unlock the next.
Don't approve.
Yeah, that's control. I like that. I like it very much. So.
And even in some of the smaller lessons where there may be like that one question that asks, what do you think are some of the character traits of a master? If they put 1 or 2 words that I know that you're not going through, and I was even sharing with another colleague of mine who was asking me about that as an instructor, just based on my past experience, I mean, I'm not going to accept anything mediocre. So I'm holding the master educators and the cosmetology and all of the beauty educators to a certain standard here. So it's not something that I'm expecting them to run through. I'm not going to allow it, actually. So that's why the video is in place, to explain the course, the amount of time, what they can expect, and even some of the lessons will be listed free so they can get a feel of what. And so only it won't be for the faint at heart. It will be truly for someone that really wants to take advantage of not only the convenience, but also wants to absorb some great information and some innovative ways to produce great students.
Certainly, I'll be happy to go into that. And do we have any other volunteers that would do it?
That's right.
Ms. Patty? Okay. Well, in that case, we probably would need a motion to give, if you agree, to give Roxana the authority to approve this once it kind of clears the security mustard.
And feedback from the two of you.
The feedback.
Perfect. Okay.
I make a motion that we approve pending the feedback in the trial period.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve that motion. Is there any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you so much, Amy and Kelly. That's it.
For your time and your patience.
Good luck. I'll need to get with you or get some information from
Or you
Roxana.
can send it to me on how you want them to look.
Links, and you guys will set up a user
you.
account, and we'll move from there.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Great
thank you.
job.
Excellent. We have one last item on our agenda. It's new topic. We put on the agenda advanced aesthetics to have a conversation. I can't tell you if that's going to be 10 minutes or hopefully not more than an hour, but in any case, it's pretty open-ended. Does the board want to take a break? Do we want to continue? I know we're going to lose Frank here in a minute. You want to continue?
Yeah.
If you need to step out, feel free. But,
Yeah.
We have enough chocolate here to keep us going.
Dig into those sweet board members. Thank you all that brought in goodies and Christmas. Merry Christmas to all before we forget. Okay, so on your iPads, you have simply one email, but this is before you because we've received an increased number of calls and emails regarding aesthetics, and it's basically aesthetics working a little bit outside of what their license prepares them to do within our cosmetology or aesthetic specialty schools, and within what our statute allows them to do in the skincare or the cosmetology shops. Under Rule 0440-02-.16, skin peeling and invasive procedures refers to only the uppermost layer of skin, of facial skin, and only for the purposes of beautification. Pursuant to Statute 62-4-109, physicians, nurses, aides, or similar personnel acting solely in their professional capacities are exempt from the cosmetology chapter. I'm only citing these two. Of course, we've got many others as key statutes that are referenced when we have estheticians contact us with I want to do microneedling, but I've taken this certification. No, I want to, and the questions often go on, and so that's the reason we're opening the conversation. We've got a board member, obviously, that is an esthetician, and we do have a couple of individuals here that have bared with us through the long meeting that might have some ideas and suggestions, but I pretty much open it up. Hugh has been wonderful jumping on board and helping us answer these emails, which often don't stop because the licensee is wanting us to say, yes, you can do that. And the reality is our statute is pretty clear. It's the top layer of skin. I mean, I reference the statute and say that, and that's what falls under our avenue. And the medical profession, the med spas, if the board recalls, we requested an attorney general opinion at one point regarding the microblading, microneedling, because it was considered semi-tattooing and not in something that we can regulate and be worried about. So that's kind of the background of why we're here.
So, where do we want to get started, Mo?
So,
Oh, no, you're up, baby.
Yeah. Let's go, Mona.
yeah. I'm really happy there are actually 6 people represented in the audience. So now there's just 7 estheticians instead of 1 that would like to see a movement in advanced aesthetics. It's been a subject that weekly I have been getting calls about. I have also visited with groups in Nashville, Murfreesboro, and in West Tennessee of medical spa owners, estheticians, and school owners that are, yes, we would like to see some advanced aesthetics. I've had discussions with you and Roxana looking for a window in our statute that maybe we could just make some rules changes and offer some levels where the current esthetician program would be a gateway to estheticians that would want to work in a medical spa capacity. We do have the exemption that the estheticians can work under medical direction. However, there are many modalities that in device work that you really do not need physician oversight. So it kind of becomes even more gray when someone says, oh, I saw this wonderful, demonstration of this, machine, and it is epidermal lesions that it's removing. Can I use it? Well, I can't answer that question with, the statute and everything. So many estheticians, so many non-estheticians are going out and getting credentialing in many areas of aesthetics because there's a very large world and a growing world of aesthetics when they attend conferences. And these are A to Z type conferences. Over 30 years ago, I was educated in Europe for aesthetics, and I was educated in Toronto, Canada. And I would say the Gateway program offered in Tennessee today is not even at the standards of 30 years ago. There are so many deficiencies. So in that leap forward of 30 years, all with, the borders being crossed, an esthetician graduates in Tennessee, they go to a trade show and they come back and they go, wow, look what I can't do and what I would like to do. So, it would be, a great service, just as I thought a great service would be segmenting out the esthetician schools from the cosmetology schools, and now we have a segment of wonderful education where that esthetician, even though using the same core program with a few rule changes that we made, can actually get a very concentrated program of just aesthetics. And it was an idea and an intent when those schools were pulled out, and that was done, and I have to mention, by changing a law. And it wasn't done, by the board or the obstacles here are the statute and the law. It's not the board. But what has happened, because those of us that want to work outside of the core practice of aesthetics and work it with lasers and other types of modalities, we're working under the medical board as registering as a medical spa. And what that means is we have a medical director that has basically put their license up to become a medical spa entity, and they're hiring estheticians, which are a very large workforce. At this time, there are 420 current med spas registered, and I would say probably 400 or 100% using estheticians as a workforce. So there's a lot of estheticians working in the medical spa business. The application to the health department is $250, and it's done just by filling out an application. There's really, unless there's a complaint, no inspections. But what has happened is, because the 2017 Attorney General opinion on microneedling and microblading is in direct conflict with the 2012 extension that we got, or what we allow the doctors and the estheticians to collaborate to be medical spas. In 2013, we completed a workshop study, and the workshop was, I think there were 6 boards that were involved in it, and Rachel Powers, the former attorney with our board, attended with me, and it was with the intent to define so that there could move forward with certain laws for med spas. No one in our legislature knew what a med spa was. You know, was it a doctor's office with a candle, or was it a barber shop with a back room? You know, there was no real definition. So it was defined in this 2013 workshop study, which was mandated by the 2012 Senate. And with that, estheticians are very much included in the medical spa business, and each esthetician, each owner has moved forward working with that. But what has happened with this conflict with the 2017 Attorney General opinion, the Health Board has been investigating particular med spas. And there's someone in the room that can particularly speak to that, because I have about 12 pages of 12 emails of huge documents dating over a year of this investigation. He has spent over $30,000 to try to protect his physician from being disciplined for oversight over an esthetician. So this is what everybody's meeting about. At what levels is the health department going to, and I do have a real beef with the health department, because I've met with them many times over the years, and the intent and what they're doing are two different things. And that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. And it's an important thing that it's not confusing, because if it's confusing, then it won't be safe who's doing all of these treatments. And and I know the reason why I'm here, but I also think that when someone spends time in schools and gets educated, and then they follow all of the rules, and then another department comes in and tells them that they can't work doing a particular thing that they went out and got self-credentialed on, then they got their license. So many, even Destiny was telling me when I approved her school last week, all of her students are credentialed in something that they thought they could work in the beauty business, and realized they couldn't work anywhere because they didn't have a license, and they needed to go to beauty school. So I've even seen that in instructors in the western part of the state. They thought they could teach things in beauty, but they don't even have a license to be an esthetician or to teach anything, and even though they come from an education background. So all of this needs clarity. There is no light in the Department of Commerce statute that we can do it in the rulemaking process, and I just feel very certain that there's going to be some legislative action to move forward. And my appeal to everyone is if you feel like estheticians can advance and move like global estheticians have in the state of Tennessee, that quite possibly you could speak favorably for this to the person you voted for. And hopefully we can have enough elected officials that would understand that it's not all about winning in action, and it's not the physicians against the estheticians. We have collaborated and worked very well. I've been in this business with one medical director for 8 years, another one for 7 years previously, and no one's getting hurt, no one died in Tennessee, and it's a beautiful business. And this is really my appeal. It's for I know that I don't want to be optimistic and say that anybody would move on this like for this legislative session, but to start having some talks with the people that you elected. If you do feel like that estheticians can really advance and work in these beautiful modalities for beautification. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say today. And if you would like to add anything to it, or
Mona, thank you. I know how passionate you are about your side of the industry and how you are for the whole industry. So
thank you.
The things that you're talking about here.
Ron, your mic's not on.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The things you're talking about here, I personally think are really valid things that are changes in the industry, and maybe science and technology have outpaced the legislative process once again. But I do appreciate everything you've said. I know there's a couple of people here, and I don't want to prolong our day more than we need to, but this is important, and if it's okay with you members, if anyone in this group, I think you said there are 5 or 6 people here or so, if a couple of you or some of you want to come up, I can probably give you about 3 or 4 minutes to make a statement to us and let us hear some of the ideas that you might have. So much of what Mona's talking about, we're not in a position to make changes on because it is in the legislative side on the Hill. But at the same time, this is where we need to hear from you, and we're certainly happy to do that. There's always going to be a lot of questions that have to be answered. Things like, you mentioned people getting education and credentials and things outside of school. The questions that have to be answered are kind of in the line of who's providing that education, what are their qualifications, are they qualified to actually be teaching that, or are they going to the University of YouTube for a degree?
I've got several estheticians, and they have, I'd say over half of them have went on and got their microblading and all that already because they're going to work for a doctor. So they're doing that.
they're
on
going to
the
have to have a
side.
tattoo license if they're
So they're
doing
getting their
microblading.
esthetician, and then they're going on and doing their microblading and everything, and have a certificate. They bring,
Well, microblading went under the health department.
That was Attorney General.
Yeah.
And they'll need to have a tattoo license if they're microblading.
Right.
And I learned that going into schools over the last couple of months, that message hasn't been put out there by the health department. So it's, communication when there is a change is important. I know the onus is on the business owners, but I think that there should be a movement of change for advanced credentialing. And
Aesthetics is so large. It's become so large now, and it's growing so fast.
I'd like to, like if we could come up with even the numbers, what it was 5 years ago in Tennessee with licensees to today, I'm sure it is like a rocket compared to anything else that we're issuing license for. It's a huge growth industry.
I believe we had someone that wanted to speak.
Yeah.
If you would, just approach the microphone, tell us who you are, and we'll give you 3 or 4 minutes here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jenny Ford, and I'm a principal at JF Government Strategies, and I serve as the Government Relations Advisor and Lobbyist for the Tennessee Society for Laser Medicine and Surgery, or TSLMS. I've been asked by the Society's board chair, Dr. Michael Gold, who's the medical director at Gold Skincare, to present the following statement to your board. The Tennessee Society for Laser Medicine and Surgery supports the current policy of the Cosmetology and Barber Licensing Board. That is, that an esthetician may perform advanced aesthetic procedures working under the supervision of a medical director or supervising physician at a med spa. Additionally, TSLMS believes a record of all such procedures must be maintained and reviewed by the medical director. Our position is supported by the Tennessee Code, validated by the Attorney General, and has been a long-time practice in the field of aesthetic medicine in our state. On behalf of the members of TSLMS, I thank you for this opportunity to share our position. And if I may, I'd like to recognize one of your board members, Mona Sevenfeld, who I have been working with over the past couple of months. We've just been exchanging phone calls, talking, and I do want to say on behalf of TSLMS that I have extended to them your interest in wanting to possibly let that group work with you and some other estheticians in trying to identify and help and support the profession of aesthetics. And that's it.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jenna.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else that wished to speak? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Mike.
I appreciate that. I stayed because I really wanted to hear this about the advanced aesthetics. My experience, as I mentioned earlier, I own cosmetology schools in Arizona, but I was also appointed by Janet Napolitano to the post-secondary commissioners for education out there by the state senate. And the only reason I'm saying that is because in this industry, I have no background of either cosmetology or aesthetics, but I've really been in post-secondary education since 1986. And I've never had more fun than working with these particular type of schools as an owner and as a consultant, because of the creativity we could bring into the experience for the students that are having in schools. Now, saying that, and the reason why I brought up the state of Arizona, Arizona is definitely a leader in aesthetics. And my suggestion, literally, I'm just dangerous enough to make a comment on it. And that is really what we had to learn as these commissioners and working with the state of Arizona, and we were, whether it was working on a 502 plan or something, it didn't matter. But what we were humble enough to do is look where other states were very successful. And I only encourage the board, from this standpoint, from whether it's the Attorney General, I have no idea. But I'm just saying that I know that other states have addressed this issue and probably are ahead just for the volume of what's going on. And I can really speak on behalf of Arizona of how far aesthetics has gone in such a short period of time. And I haven't been in that state in the last 8 years, so I can only imagine where it's going to now, especially with the med spas. But I do, and am very involved with some of the school owners out there that do have this program, and some of the things they're doing is unbelievable. And some of the things that, and some of the paths that these estheticians are taking is really commendable. So the only suggestion is really, I just think that everybody has to be very humble and look to see where some of the, because I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel in the state of Tennessee. I think there's some of our answers are really out there of what's been successful, and that's the only suggestion I'm really just stood up to say.
Thank you very much. Can you add your name in the microphone?
My name is Michael Smith.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
For the record.
Arizona, I went out for a meeting at Cutera University, and one of my friends teaches in a school that has a laser component school. They also have a component for the spas, the resort spas where they do the balneotherapy, thalassotherapy, mesotherapy treatments, and then they have a hair school, and then they have the core aesthetic school, and I mean it's just, and it goes on and on. It was actually in a suburb of Phoenix where I was, but I just went out because one of my favorite hairdressers happens to instruct out there, and visited with her because I was in her neck of the woods. But I just couldn't believe the components that they had put together for advanced education at one location. It was an amazing experience to see. So I know it can be done. It's just opening your eyes and seeing the vision of, where the aesthetics industry has been traveling to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was that Penrose that you were at?
Mm-hmm.
I know that owner very well, Jill Kohler. She's very on top of her game. She
Yeah,
really is.
it was amazing.
Thank you again. Any other members have anything to say? Okay. Ms. Roxana, I believe that brings us to the end of our program, does it not?
Sure does. We are done. Thank you all for your patience, and it was a great meeting. Great meeting.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Merry Christmas first.
We have a motion from Janie. We have a second.
Second.
Everybody.
Everybody seconded.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Merry Christmas.